Hi, writers. Okay, so we have made some topic lists and you have thought about some places and people and topics that you know a lot about, that you're experts on, that you can make a super topic writing about. What I'm going to do today is remind you, you can, first of all, people can be a super topic. If there is a person that you know a lot about, you can write about that person. I'm going to read a piece to you about Langston Hughes. He was a famous poet. So I'm going to read to you something that was written about him. It's a super topic because it tells things about Langston Hughes. And then I'm going to read a poem that he wrote, okay? And I want you to notice that the all about piece is informational text. And the poem is different because even though it's still really beautiful and important, it's not informational, okay? Langston Hughes lived from 1902 to 1967. He was a poet. Langston moved around a lot as a child. His parents traveled looking for work, his father to Mexico and his mother throughout the Midwest. Langston was left to be raised by his grandmother, but felt abandoned by his parents. His only comforts were his books and the worlds he found inside them. Langston began writing early. In the 8th grade, he was made class poet, and his first works were printed in his school's newspaper. In 1920, he went to visit his father. As the train crossed the Mississippi, he thought about the massive river, how Black history was linked to it. He thought about things his grandmother had told him, things he's read in books about the slave trade, and he crafted one of his first major poems, The Negro Speaks of Rivers. He was only 17, but his voice had the wisdom of someone who saw the world for what it was. He asked the reader to consider humanity, not just Black or white society. In 1921, the poem was published in The Crisis, a major publication of the Harlem Renaissance. Langston moved to New York to attend Columbia University and became a leading creative voice in the movement. Langston wrote about Black pride at a time long before anyone considered it something to celebrate. Heavily influenced by the blues and jazz, his poetry flowed and had rhythm. In 1923, he traveled abroad, settling for a while in Paris. Upon his return, he worked as a busboy in Washington, D.C. One day, one of his favorite writers, Vachel Lindsay, came in and Langston slipped him some of his work. Vachel was impressed with Langston's poetry and helped him meet the right people. In 1926, Langston's first book of poems was published, The Weary Blues. He was the first Black writer in the United States to make a living off his work. He wrote plays and published short stories and more than 16 volumes of poems. Langston used his writing to appeal to working-class folks, focus on society and racial injustice, and portray Black life in America. I, Too, Am America by Langston Hughes, illustrated by Brian Collier. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Okay, so now that we've learned some things about Langston Hughes, I want to go in and I want to write a super topic informational text piece about things that I know about Langston Hughes. So I came up with some of my facts about Langston Hughes and wrote them down, and I'm going to try to get them close enough for you, but I remembered. Now, what I like to do, I like for one fact to be on each page. You know, I love a book. I like to be an author, so I like to make books. So my first fact that went on my first page says, Langston Hughes was a poet, okay? Because that's the main thing that I know about him. And I drew a picture of him. This book is really cool though. At the back of it, I have to show you this. At the back of it, it has a place for you to come up with your own, can you see it? Your own little legends. And so I was able to trace it. And that's why it looks so much like the real picture. The rest of mine won't look so good. But Langston Hughes was a poet. That was my one fact. He wrote his first poem when he was still a kid in school. I think that's really cool because I know you guys are authors, you're really good writers. And I think, you know what? Some of you might already have realized when you grow up, you're going to be a writer because that's how good you are at it and that's how much you love it. So he wrote his first poem when he was still a kid in school. So I didn't draw the same picture. This is a picture of a desk and somebody sitting at it with some paper because he's at school. So I want your picture to match the fact, okay? He wrote his first poem when he was still a kid in school. I haven't finished the rest of my illustrations yet. I'm gonna have to go back and do them. My third fact that I knew was that he worked at a restaurant until he met a writer that helped him. So he wanted to become a writer, but he also had needs and some wants and he had to pay for those things, right? So while he was becoming a writer, he also had to have another job working at a restaurant. That's my third fact. Then Langston was the first Black writer to make enough money to live off of in America. And we've been talking so much about wants and needs. And so I just got to thinking about how that was really amazing. He got to do the job he wanted to do and he made enough money that he was able to support himself. Okay, and then that was number 4. My number 5 one is he wrote poems that helped people see that Black people and white people are all people that deserve respect. So he was the kind of poet that could make people even change their mind about things, about what they thought things were. So I'm not sure I'm gonna write that one yet, but I want you to notice I didn't actually include any poetry in this book because this isn't a book of poetry. It's a book about Langston Hughes. It's an all about book. And we're gonna talk some more next time we come together about what we need to include and what we need to leave out when we're writing all about books. But for now, I just want you to notice, I told you facts about Langston Hughes. I didn't put poems in, even though he's a poet. So that is my all about book for today. You guys are gonna get started. I cannot wait to see what you write, what topic you choose, what you're gonna decide to let us know about. It might be something we're all experts at. It might be something only you know about that you can teach us about, okay? Can't wait to see your informational text.